In August 2024, a new operation commenced. Targeting Gaza City, the largest urban center in the Gaza Strip, encompassing the Sabra and Zeitoun neighborhoods, along with their surrounding areas. Following earlier campaigns that had established control over most of Gaza, Israeli forces initiated the first phase of Operation Gideon's Chariots 2. The primary objective was to penetrate and secure districts that had not yet been fully brought under their control. The operation marked a significant escalation in the conflict, focusing military efforts on the dense, complex urban landscape that had long been a bastion of armed groups. The plan involved a multi-pronged advance, leveraging overwhelming firepower and armored superiority to break through heavily defended lines. For the residents who remained, it signaled another chapter of intense conflict, as the sounds of mobilization echoed across the already scarred city, heralding the imminent ground assault. The offensive began with a concerted push by Israeli tanks and infantry from the east and south, conducted under the constant cover of heavy airstrikes that pounded suspected enemy positions. The distinctive deep roar of Merkava tank engines reverberated through the ruined streets, a sound that had become synonymous with ground advances in the region. As the armored columns moved forward, they were met with immediate and fierce resistance. Suddenly, the air was filled with the sharp, whizzing sound of anti-tank rockets, which streaked past the armored vehicles before exploding with thunderous force beside them. Plumes of thick black smoke billowed into the sky, marking the sites of direct hits and near misses, obscuring the battlefield in a chaotic haze. From the skeletal remains of high-rise buildings, local fighters concealed among the rubble took aim. Sniper fire cracked through the air, targeting exposed soldiers, while others hurled grenades down onto the advancing convoys below. The geography of the city itself became a weapon for the defenders. The narrow, debris-choked streets severely restricted the maneuverability of the large tanks, turning them into vulnerable targets for close-range ambushes. The initial hours of the operation were defined by this violent interplay of overwhelming force and agile, determined resistance, setting the tone for the brutal urban warfare that would follow. On August 19th, a pivotal moment in the operation occurred as Israeli tanks successfully breached the defenses and entered the Sabra neighborhood, a densely populated area in the heart of Gaza City. The advance was slow and methodical, spearheaded by combat engineers who worked under fire to clear a path. The deafening sound of metal striking concrete echoed relentlessly as they leveled obstacles, including barricades and booby-trap structures, to allow the armored vehicles to proceed. Simultaneously, infantry units pushed deep into Zeitoun, a southern suburb that had been the scene of repeated fierce battles in previous conflicts. The soldiers moved cautiously, aware that every building could hide a potential ambush. Overhead, air support was a constant, dominating presence. Precision-guided bombs were dropped on suspected positions, identified through intelligence and drone surveillance, with each detonation sending powerful shockwaves that shook the very ground beneath the combatants' feet. The defenders, however, refused to yield. They responded with a series of close-range ambushes, luring soldiers into buildings that had been rigged with explosives. These booby traps were activated with deadly effect, turning seemingly secure locations into deadly snares. In this environment, each city block transformed into a separate, isolated battleground. Close-quarters combat raged for hours on end within the dark, suffocating corridors of residential buildings and office blocks, where visibility was low and the threat of attack came from every direction. To overcome the challenges of the urban terrain, Israeli forces employed specialized equipment and tactics. Massive, armored bulldozers, impervious to small arms fire, methodically leveled entire areas, clearing rubble and demolishing structures to create wider, more secure paths for the advancing tanks and troops. This tactic, while effective, further reshaped the city's landscape, adding to the widespread destruction. Infantry units adapted their movements, operating in small, agile formations that could navigate the treacherous environment more effectively. They relied heavily on technology, using reconnaissance drones to scout ahead for enemy positions and sniffer dogs to detect the hidden entrances to underground bunkers. The defenders, in turn, masterfully utilized their extensive network of subterranean tunnels for covert movement. This allowed them to launch surprise attacks, firing rocket-propelled grenades at armored vehicles from unexpected locations, before quickly melting back into the shadows of their underground network, evading immediate retaliation. The fierce fighting soon spilled over into the surrounding areas, with the continuous rattling sound of machine gun fire echoing from rooftops and shattered windows. Attack helicopters flew low over the city, the cannons providing direct fire support to the ground troops, strafing targets with devastating accuracy and adding another layer of noise and destruction to the chaotic battlefield. Throughout the month of August, the Israeli advance continued, albeit at a grueling pace. The intensity and scale of the resistance prompted military commanders to call up thousands of reserve troops, signaling their preparation for a significant expansion of the operation. These reinforcements were brought in to bolster the front lines and to secure the territory that had already been taken, freeing up the spearhead units to push deeper into contested areas. As the ground forces consolidated their gains, the air campaign intensified dramatically. Airstrikes became more frequent and more powerful, systematically destroying numerous high-rise buildings that were suspected of being used by IFT fighters as observation posts or sniper nests. The city's skyline, already punctuated by a landscape of ruins, was further altered as these structures collapsed into massive piles of rubble. Despite being on the defensive, the local fighters continued to show their resilience, launching a series of localized counterattacks, typically under the cover of darkness. These nighttime raids often involve small groups of fighters who would stealthily approach makeshift Israeli positions and hurl grenades before retreating. The response to these attacks was invariably swift and overwhelming. The Air Force would be called in to conduct powerful airstrikes on the suspected launch points, targeting weapons depots and fortified positions in an effort to degrade the defenders' ability to continue their resistance. By the end of August, the relentless pressure had yielded tangible results for the attacking forces. Israeli troops had successfully advanced deeper into areas of Gaza City that were previously inaccessible, establishing and consolidating their positions within the hard-fought neighborhoods of Sabra and Zeitoun. The operation had significantly expanded the area under their control, creating a larger buffer zone and tightening their grip on the urban center. However, this progress came at a tremendous cost. Gaza City and its surroundings suffered further extensive damage, with countless buildings reduced to rubble and entire neighborhoods rendered uninhabitable. The human toll of the fighting was severe. Heavy casualties were inflicted on both sides of the conflict. The Israeli military acknowledged losses among its soldiers, who fell victim to the defenders' well-planned ambushes, improvised explosive devices, and booby traps. For the defenders, the losses were also substantial. They lost a significant number of fighters as well as critical military infrastructure, including command posts, weapons caches, and fortified positions that had been painstakingly prepared over months or even years. The battle for Gaza City in August 2024 was a brutal testament to the high price of urban warfare, paid in both lives and the destruction of a city. This protracted engagement in urban warfare served as a stark demonstration of the unique challenges presented by Gaza City's environment. The densely packed buildings, narrow alleyways, and most significantly, the extensive underground tunnel network combined to make the city an exceptionally difficult area to conquer through conventional military means. The attacking side leveraged its overwhelming technological and material superiority, deploying its air power, armored divisions, and specialized engineering units to methodically and gradually expand its sphere of control. Yet, despite this immense military pressure, they encountered persistent and adaptable resistance at every turn. The defenders, in response, employed classic urban guerrilla tactics. They used their intimate knowledge of the terrain to their advantage, conducting hit-and-run attacks, setting up ambushes in confined spaces, and using the tunnel system to maneuver unseen. These tactics were designed not to win a decisive victory, but to inflict a steady stream of casualties on the advancing force. To sow confusion and to prolong the fighting for as long as possible, thereby raising the cost of the operation for the attackers. The result was a grinding, attritional battle, where territory was gained street by street and building by building. The initial campaign, from a tactical perspective, achieved its primary objectives. Israeli forces successfully pushed into new areas of Gaza City, consolidated their control over a larger swath of territory that included key neighborhoods like Sabra and Zeitoun, and systematically destroyed a significant amount of the local military infrastructure. This represented a measurable success in their broader military strategy, to dismantle the capabilities of armed groups operating within the Gaza Strip. However, the advance did not bring an end to the fighting. Local resistance, though weakened, continued with tenacity. The fragmented nature of the defending forces meant that even after main command structures were dismantled, small, independent cells continued to operate, launching sporadic attacks and engaging Israeli troops in localized skirmishes. This led to prolonged periods of low intensity, yet still deadly, fighting in the weeks and months that followed the main offensive. The city remained a volatile and dangerous environment, with the gains of August proving to be the beginning of a long and arduous process of stabilization rather than a decisive end to the conflict in the area. As the scene fades out, the camera ascends, looking down from a great height upon the sprawling expanse of Gaza City. The urban landscape below is shrouded in a thick pall of dust and smoke, a gray and brown canvas of further ruins. The once vibrant neighborhoods are now ghost-like, their skeletal structures standing as silent monuments to the recent intense combat. The powerful, dramatic background music that accompanied the scenes of battle begins to slow, its crescendo diminishing until it fades away completely. All that remains is the haunting, melancholic sound of the wind as it blows through the crumbling walls and shattered windows of the desolate city. White text appears starkly against the somber backdrop, delivering a final, grounding message to the viewer based on actual historical events.